To the United Nations.
The United States' withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement for a second time leaves a gaping hole in efforts to contain global warming, and with it goes $3 billion in funding. The Climate Accord is the biggest call to action under the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It commits countries to cut carbon emissions and limit temperature rises to at least 1.5 degrees Celsius to avoid a catastrophe.
Because the United States is still responsible for about 15% of the world's emissions, it's even going to become tricky to keep global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. Because it's also about the investments. Under a Biden-type administration, we expected huge investments within the United States and worldwide in terms of a new renewable energy industry.
The mercury breached the 1.5-degree change for the first time in 2023. It hit a record 1.7 degrees Celsius in January. Such rapid increases in temperatures are detrimental to Africa, which has been the least responsible for poisonous gas emissions driving climate change.
During this first year that global warming exceeded that 1.5 degrees Celsius threshold, we had an absolutely devastating drought in Botswana, Namibia, Zambia, Malawi. We had 80% of the maize crop failing in Zimbabwe and Zambia. In Malawi, we had 25% of the population in the need of food aid.
The vulnerability of the economies of the particular countries, particularly in Africa, is going to be quite fragile, so we'll lose a lot of potential GDP and value addition that has been derived from the potential of a stable economic climate as well as just an environmental climate.
The UN Convention calls on rich countries, which are largely responsible for the current global climate crisis, to take lead in funding poorer countries. But analysts believe this is yet another indication that Africa must take charge of its own future.
The African Union must play an important role in convincing the international community to act on this already agreed principle, so that the stronger economies in the world can support African countries when they get devastated by climate change intensified extreme weather events.
The more integrated the region is, the more resilient it will be, other than the fact of sporadic migration and such, but the mere fact that we're able to exchange goods as well as services, the interlinkages between the different countries will increase our resilience. Leveraging things like the Free Trade Continental Agreement is quite key, and investing in renewables and clean tech technology.
The Paris Agreement brings together 195 nations, including those in China, Europe, Africa and South America. Even though the US has withdrawn from the agreement, these countries are stepping up efforts to prevent irreversible climate damage. Julie Shara, CGTN, Cape Town.